Hi everyone, hiving some bees. This is my first packages of the spring. Got two of them. Try to get them done real quick here. I know you're looking down here, which is the place to look. So I've got two packages. These are Carniolans. My friend Dennis Lohman bred the queens down in the Central Valley, California. Always had great luck with his stuff. I recommend it highly. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you here. This is a can. It's got syrup in it. That little tab, you probably can't see it, but I'll show it to you in a minute. That's where the queen cage is. And this is 4 pounds of bees. And they're all clustered up at the top. So we're going to get them to get out of the way. You won't be able to see this, but I'm going to give this a little tap. And now most of the bees are at the bottom. And they're going to work their way up to the top here. And while they do that, I'm going to take the feed can out. The feed can is just a regular 32-ounce can. Sealed at both ends with sugar syrup, and then they punch some holes there and drop it in, and it slowly leaks sugar syrup into the package. So I'm getting the queen cage out right now. My hands are pretty big to stick inside there, so I'm trying to avoid having to do that. I'm also trying to avoid dropping the cage inside there. Got to be a little careful with it though. There we go, I've got a good handle on it now. Okay, so I don't know if you can see, there's some bees on there, but if you look in the cage, there she is. She's crawling around. That's her right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a piece of wire here and I'm going to put it through the breathing holes. Please move. Like that, so I can suspend it. Now I gotta move this package. I'll move it a little closer so you can watch them buzz. That figures. Drop my wire. I got another one though. So new wires in there. And this is going to go right in the middle of the hive. Dead center. And then I pulled one frame out because I'm going to dump most of the bees right in there. So then I'm going to take this package and we just dump them in. I kept the bees in a cool place, and it's cool out today. Bees aren't terribly active. when you shake it like this, the bees instinctively grab each other and hold on. So when you shake it and dislodge them, they make these little balls of bees. So now we're going to wait for them to all go down inside there. While I'm doing that, one of the things, you know, in a video you can't tell, but these bees emit a pheromone, and it's actually a very pleasant smell. I'm getting the next one ready here. It's actually a very pleasant smell. So if you've been watching over here, you probably saw that they were a big pile like this, and now they're kind of spreading out, which is what we want them to do. They're going down. I told a new beekeeper, I said it's like watching water go down the drain, because you pour it in and then it just goes down through the cracks. So I had pulled a frame out. I'm going to replace it now. You don't want to push it too hard. There's a bunch of bees. This is a foundationless frame, by the way. And the idea there is we're going to give the bees space to do what they do naturally. So I'm pushing it down very gently so I don't squish anything. Another thing that's important when you put bees in, anytime you open up a colony of bees, it's really easy to get gaps in between the frames. Bees don't like the gaps. There's a certain space that they like. Beekeepers call it bee space. It's just a certain amount of space that they like. If you give them more than that, they think you did that because you want them to do something with it. That's rarely the case. This is the inner cover. Notice it has a hole in it right there. So what I do when I'm putting the inner covers on, I don't want to squish any bees. I kind of shake it a little bit, move it back and forth. There's a few bees here on the outside. I'm knocking them into my gloved hand. Putting them on top. I think they will just go in. Yep. Other ways, ladies. Now the other thing I'm going to do is I'm putting a feeder on here. The feeder has a hole in it. The hole goes right over the hole in the inner cover. And that hole is kind of volcano shaped. So the bees can crawl up through the center. I'll show you here real quick. They can crawl up through the center, but they can't get into the middle of it because it's got a little cover. And it's clear, so they can come up and then they go down the sides. They can get in there and get their sugar syrup, which is right here behind me. And if I don't watch out, I'm going to spill it. Already got a swimmer in there. See if we can get her out. Got her. A little bit more in. And you put this on top. It's clear so you can inspect it. You can open it up and look. And now I can feed the bees without actually opening up the container. So to help keep it hold the heat, I take this as a medium box. I don't use medium boxes except for anything like this. I'm using it as a feeding shim, so it gives me a little bit of a space. Like that. The inner cover's down here. The outer cover is somewhere. Oh, there it is. There's the outer cover. Those guys are all set. Their entrance is here on the south side. So, a couple of things that you do as you finish up with the hiving. We've got a feed can here. Feed can has lots of things on it. It's got some sugar syrup. It's got little bits of wax, and it's got a bunch of bees. So what I'm doing is I'm brushing them off right here in front of the entrance. Okay, one down, one to go. Here's the second package right here. You'll get a better look at this one. So when I say I'm going to give them a little bump, what I do is I hold them about 1.5 inches above the ground and I drop it. You get to see this one a little bit better. So these cans are exactly the right size. So it's a little challenging sometimes to get them out. You gotta pry them in just the certain magic way. Okay. Dennis, if you're watching these videos, these packages are amazing. They're beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Okay. There's the queen right there. She's walking around. You can see her. And I just realized that I only had one piece of wire. So I'm gonna improvise here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this cap, this cap, there's a sugar in here, turning this cap 90 degrees, and I'm going to allow that to be how it sits in there between the frames. And what you want to do when you're doing that is you want to make it so that the holes, you can see the holes, so that the bees can get to them, the workers, because the workers will feed the queen. The queen releases what's called a mandibular pheromone, and she releases that from her mandibles, and as the other bees feed her, they exchange that pheromone, and then as those bees go and move through the hive, they exchange that pheromone with each other, and that gets them acclimated to that queen, because that queen is not the queen that belongs to these bees. So here I'm going to show you, you get to see it up close this time. Turn it upside down. So when I do that, I'm trying to get them to dislodge from what they're holding on to, and when they get into that cluster, they just instinctively grab onto each other, and it makes little balls of bees. There's still a few left in there, but the last 100 bees are always the hardest. Okay, so that part of the excitement is over. So if you've been watching here, I don't know if you've been able to see it, but if you've been watching here instead of watching me shake that package, you'll see how they're just spreading out. This is one of my favorite parts of hiving bees. It's just they move in and they say, "Oh, this is cool. I like this," and they just move in and they walk. They get down in among those frames and get settled in. Now remember that feed can I showed you before. They can smell the pheromones, so they all come back. They come back. My friend Dennis, who raised these bees, he's a big commercial beekeeper. And are you in the way of the can? There's a bee right on the lens there. He's a big commercial beekeeper, and he keeps thousands of hives. And the first time I met him, we were doing stuff with bees, and we were picking off bees that had gotten on the outside of the packages. And he talks to them just like a backyard beekeeper does. And just kind of shows you that beekeepers love what they do. And it doesn't matter whether they keep 100 or 1 or 1,000 hives. They have a connection with these animals, and believe me, they've helped keep me sane over the years. We put them right on my patio, and I sit there and listen to them come and go. It's absolutely mesmerizing. So now I'm going to take this frame and I'm going to stick it back in that gap, and I'm only letting the weight of the frame be what's pushing it down, and so the bees will move out of the way, and as they do that, it sinks down further. It's like magic. Okay. So now I'm going to put the inner cover. This inner cover is a little different. I made it out of old used political signs. Those things are quite easy to come by, so you get lots of them, and it's Corex is the name of the material, and it's a very nice material to work with. And as you can see, they found the hole right away. So before they start getting out of control here and putting the feeder on top of them, with this particular inner cover, you have to line it up a little bit more correctly. So I'm taking this lid off. I'll set it over here on this other hive. Again, here's the little cone. got a little little cut in it so that it kind of fits in there. Not snug really, but it doesn't move out of place. So this is a 1-to-1 sugar syrup. I used about a gallon and a quarter, a little less, a little more than a gallon, but less than a gallon and a quarter of sugar syrup, of water, and a 10-pound bag of sugar. You want to be in there, ladies. So now I got to find another an outer cover. Here it is. You don't want to go in there. Come on, let's go. We're going somewhere else. There you go. Get out. Okay. 2 packages done. So let me so I didn't get any stings. One of the things that I like to tell beekeepers is you can tell when bees are angry at you because they thump you. And what that means is they seem to instinctively know where your face is. And so what they do is they fly at your face and try to hit you in the face and sting you. If you're wearing a veil, they can't get to you, but it makes a noise. You know, like tapping a drum or something like that. I call it thumping. So that's kind of one of my go-to metrics of how are the bees doing. If I get thumped a lot, I know that they're upset. I didn't get thumped once. Part of it is because it's nice and cool, and so they're not too active. But also they're happy. They're well fed, and now they're even more well fed. Let me walk around the front here of this hive. As you can see, I haven't really gotten the spring cleanup going yet. So these 2 colonies are going to be for my queen rearing. If you'll notice, the front entrance can be shut, and on the back there's a similar one. So I can have an entrance on the front or the back. This has the same thing too. So I can have an entrance on the front or the back. And what that allows me to do is it allows me to use something called a cloak board, and which is difficult to explain, but when you see it, it makes a lot of sense. I can use a cloak board, and the effect of the cloak board is I keep the queen in the bottom box, and I have another box on top, and I can direct the foraging bees from the bottom box to the top box by shutting this entrance here, and then I open the entrance on the other side. The bees leave from that side, but when they come back, they come to this side, and they can't get in. So they crawl up, crawl up, crawl up, crawl up, and then there's a barrier right there, and then there'll be an entrance, and then they go in there, and they would go into the... I'm sitting here holding it over here, you can't see it. But so this entrance is closed, they crawl up, and they go past the barrier and then go into the entrance in the top box. And so that causes the top box to get full of bees. And so it's crowded, and you feed it, so it's well fed and crowded, and it's queenless because you put a solid barrier between the 2 boxes. And that's what you use to raise queens. And I'm still learning how to do it. I built all my own stuff, which I'm kind of proud of, but anyway, that's that. So that's hiving bees. The first 2 of quite a few. I'm not sure how many I'm going to have this year. It sort of just turns out however many I get. But probably something like 15 or 20. That's it. Now I got to take my gloves off to turn the video off so you get to see me flail around here. There we go. Say goodbye.